Hi, everyone. Henry DeVries from Health Authority TV. And this is where we look at the business of health and health B2B and what needs to be done with the healthcare system in America. And I'm so happy to have a CEO who's doing something about it, Dennis Calvert from BioLargo. Dennis, how are you today?
Henry, I'm great, and this is like the perfect topic. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. Why don't you give the quick thumbnail on BioLargo for the viewers?
Our company has been innovating in health sciences and environmental technology for almost 20 years. And I actually have quite a bit of background in healthcare as well, by the way. Did acquisitions for years, did physician recruitment for years, got to see it firsthand. I've also had personal experience with my daughter with a health crisis that I lived through for 2 years, sitting in the ICU, dealing with the whole crazy reimbursement system and infection control and all this stuff that goes on in healthcare. And so the combination of my personal and my corporate journey, I hope to share something of insight about some of the things that we might be able to do to improve things.
Well, that's the big question. What can we do to improve healthcare in the United States?
It's so funny. Yeah, I'm always reminded the healthcare system in the United States is probably one of the best in the world. It's an argument, of course, right? But there are problems, right? It's got a free enterprise system. It leans towards big medicine, big pharma, all that issue, right? And things have gotten pretty complex, I'd say, right? As I look out in the field today, there's so much going on about choices and information and regulatory that makes it a quagmire to navigate. I mean, if just take a look at your EOB from your health insurance provider. It's like, oh my gosh, how in the world are you going to manage this? So, getting back to the basics, right? Getting back to the basics of keeping people safe first. Treat for health, don't treat for illness. This idea of prevention, stay ahead of the curve. Education, of course, is critical. We witnessed in our journey, personal and corporate, something that we thought we might be able to do something about. And that was the idea of helping prevent infection and infection control because the implication to infection control in the healthcare system right now, it affects everybody. It affects the meds, the protocol, the post recovery inhibition, the inhibition of healing activity on wounds. And I think that from our perspective, we looked out and came across some incredible technology and said, gosh, I wonder if we could actually move the needle, right? And so now, by the way, that's taken us 18 years, okay,
Wow.
to get to the point where we think we're going to really move the needle for infection control. And so to me, there's a lot to do, but I know a lot about that one.
You're also doing something to affect health, but I would say upstream when we're talking with PFAS and forever chemicals. So it's not
Absolutely.
damaging health downstream. How's that working?
Cleaning up the environment, we have we first started this company, that goes beyond like 18 years ago. Our founder and first inventor, Ken Code, he really sat me down. He said, "Look, I have this thing, this discovery. Okay, we call it the copper iodine complex. Okay, and he said this is going to end up impacting the world for great. It's just going to do something great. It's going to keep people safe. It's going to heal wounds, all that." And he said, and the role of this technology in both medicine and environment is real. Medicine and environment. It's antimicrobial. Okay. He said there's a couple of lessons, and the first lesson he taught me was he said, "Whatever you do, don't mess with Mother Nature." Okay, brothers, right? The things that man does to disrupt nature, they create havoc in the system, right? So I'll give you one of those. One of those is the idea of the natural degradation cycle of nature, the natural cycle of things, how things degrade. And the lesson is if you do something to mess with Mother Nature so that things won't degrade, that's a problem. And it turns out in the environment, there's this chemical called PFAS for short. That's per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. It's a category, touches about 800 chemicals. And they're basically a carbon fluorine bond. And this chemistry was used now for over 50 years to make what's called nonstick coatings not stick together, right? So it's a coating. It makes things flow easily, okay? Well, it's become like uniform with industry. I mean, it's in oil and gas, and it's in food and packaging and drugs, and it's in water table. And it turns out, there was a movie that we love that was sort of broke the camel's back, and that was Dark Waters. And Dark
Mm.
Waters was this movie published about 7 years ago. And it was a watershed event because it was a dramatization, sort of like an Aaron Brockovich story. And the Dark Waters story told the story of a case by Robert Bilott, who was played by the actor Mark Ruffalo. And I always say, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's a great little movie. It's also very entertaining. It's a dramatization of true events. Okay. And so when you watch it, what it shows is how big corporate kind of turned a blind eye to the damage, even though maybe they knew it. They knew the damage would occur, but they traded. They traded profits for damage. And then we watch these chemicals revolutionize industry all over industry. And so now they've been used in industry for over 50 years. And it turns out that these little molecules, this coating, is called forever chemicals because it lasts forever. And you're like,
Mm.
okay. So, right, remember my inventor. What did he say? He said, don't mess with Mother Nature.
What was the
Okay.
other
So,
name?
forever chemicals mess with Mother Nature. They are designed to withstand nature's degradation. And so that makes for incredible technology, smooth as silk, as they say, right? So you can pump oil and gas. You can do all these things that allowed for the delivery of molecules into a target, okay, in a way that had never been done. In fact, people don't realize it, but forever chemicals were used in the manufacturing of the atomic weapons. You couldn't have made an atomic bomb if you didn't have forever chemicals. I mean, it's on and on. It's now part and parcel to the industrial military complex. It's also part and parcel to drug manufacturing and oil and gas and transporting of energy, fuels, fossil fuels. It's also used, by the way, in solar. I mean, it's everywhere. So,
Mm.
so what do you do, right? So there's two things that need to be done, in our opinion. And by the way, the government's got the order. The government's on it, okay? Because their mandate is protect its citizens. It's a national interest. Come on, keep people safe, right?
Yeah.
So two things are going on. One is they're working on replacements, other chemistries that can replace forever chemicals so that the technology can advance for all the good things that it offered, try to get rid of some of the negative. And the other is you got to get this stuff out of the environment. I mean, you just have to get it out of the environment. It turns out a small molecule, now these are super tiny molecules, and they're so small, they're measured in the parts per trillion. Okay. So when you say testing limits for like drinking water, they say 4 parts per trillion is the testing threshold. Okay. I just want to make sure people get that. 4 parts per trillion is like these little grains of sand in an Olympic swimming pool represent a health hazard. Okay. That means like almost none. So it's an extraordinarily high bar. So then, of course, the regulators, the politicians all step in and they say, "Oh, it's too early to regulate, and we can we test this low?" And all this rhetoric. Okay, and here's the punchline: you can take this out of the environment. There just has to be a will. And the will started with the Clean Water Act, and it said these are called recalcitrant contaminants. You got to get them out of the water. And then the second is the EPA followed on with mandate. And then there's this whole regulatory scheme that's now been meandering through the system for about 10 years. And as a result of that elongated regulatory cycle, there's now a mandate that says, hey, you know what? Polluters, you need to stop polluting. That's number one. Number two, if you're going to clean it up, don't. This is the second lesson from my inventor. You know, he said, don't trade one problem for another problem.
Ah,
So don't mess with Mother Nature and don't trade one problem for another. And those two principles led to our invention, which is now, millions and millions of dollars and a lot of work grinding through the development cycle to create a solution that allows us to super concentrate, remove them from the environment, and destroy the chain of custody so that they're demineralized and capable of going into the landfill and not permeating a problem by moving from water or the soil into the landfill and then back into the earth or burn them and send them up into the rain clouds, right? I mean, so
right.
so again, we just think that this is a great technology in play to make people safe. And I always say, if I can do it, you can do it. You just got to find the spot where you can make an impact.
There we go. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Dennis, and you've given us a lot to chew on there. Until next time, we want to encourage everybody to stay healthy, wealthy, and wise.